The AGNOSTHOS THEOS. Dear brothers, the time has come to understand what the being truly is, what our studies are, what gnosis is. First of all, we must pay homage to the AGNOSTHOS THEOS, the absolute abstract space, unconditioned and eternal. Indubitably, the unknown and unknowable divinity is that which has no name, that, the unnamed, the ineffable. The absolute is beyond everything that has form and figure, side by side, quantity, quality, number, measure, and weight. It is what is not, that which has no form, the real. When using these kinds of terms, you must understand them from an intuitive point of view. When I say, it is what is not, you must grasp its profound meaning. A form of being would be what we have in our intellect, but that is not what we have in our intellect. That is why I say, it is what is not, that non-being that is the real being. Only then can we understand something, for that is beyond all comprehension. Sat, the unmanifest, undoubtedly belongs to the negative aspect of light. We are used to thinking of light in its positive aspect, but the negative aspect of great life is far beyond anything we can understand, far beyond the Sephiroth of the Kabbalah, far beyond silence and sound, and the ears to perceive it, far beyond thought, word, and deed. When we speak of negative existence, we must understand that which is not and yet is. The uncreated light is thus the negative aspect of light, it is the real. We should understand negative existence in the sense that it is unmanifested, hidden behind the veils of manifestation. The Ancient of Days, for example, in each of us, turns out to be the Makuth, that is, the lower aspect for the Absolute. Just as Makuth within cosmic manifestation, the physical world, is the lowest aspect of all 10 Sephiroth, so too is the Ancient of Days, with all its greatness, majesty, and lordship, the Makuth for the Absolute. From that unknown and unknowable divinity, latent in all that is, has been, and will be, all emanation arises, the ineffables, the army of the voice, the great word, the holy gods, the governors of the universe. They are but manifestations of the unknown and unknowable divinity of the AGNOSTHOS THEOS. Well, dear brothers, let us not forget Jehovah, Iodheve. When I speak in this way, I do not in any way refer to the anthropomorphic Jehovah of the Church of Rome, of Jerusalem, or of all dogmatic people in general. No, the Jehovah I refer to is the intimate Jehovah within each one of us. It is obvious that each of us carries within our own Iodhev. Iod is the masculine principle, Heve is the feminine principle, Iod is our Father who is in secret, Hev is our Divine Mother Kundalini, that is the intimate, personal Jehovah of each one. Jesus of Nazareth rejected the anthropomorphic Jehovah of the Jews, that biblical Jehovah, the one of the law of Talion, the one of vengeance. Jesus of Nazareth loved his Father who is in secret and his Divine Mother Kundalini. At the foot of the cross, we see him crying out to the Father. We see the divine Rabbi of Galilee with her at the foot of the cross, and him crucified on his cross, exclaiming with a great voice, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." His Divine Mother Kundalini is at the foot, she assists him at every moment, she is Ram-io. Ram is a mantra, the mantra of fire, the mantra of the Tattva Tejas. Io reminds us of the Isaac mysteries. Io is the point within the circle, it is the lingam yoni. Thus, brothers, Jesus definitively rejected the dogmatic Jehovah, the one who based his doctrine on vengeance of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and firmly adored his Father who is in secret and his Divine Mother. The true Jehovah, therefore, must be sought within, each of us carries him, beyond our consciousness, our Father who is in secret and the Divine Mother, Iodhev. We have mentioned the absolute abstract space, from which emanated the army of the voice, from which emerged our particular Jehovah, the divine male-female. We see then, that behind our particular divinity is the abstract divinity, the being of our being, the unknown God, before whom the entire army of the voice prostrates, the truth that has no name, the negative existence, that which is not and yet island. Realize where our inner being has sprung from, knowing that it emanated from the bowels of abstract, unconditioned, and eternal space, we need to orient ourselves. Above all, it is indispensable that our inner father-mother be self-realized in us. This is possible if we understand ourselves, if we manage to eliminate from our nature the inhuman elements we carry within. Let us see what is in the depth of ourselves. There is our father-mother, our primordial Elohim, who has emanated from the unknown God, from the unfathomable light, from the abstract, unconditioned, and eternal space. And he has come with a purpose, which is to take form in us, to self-realize, to crystallize within us. Is that possible? Yes, it is. But we need, I repeat, first, the elimination of the inhuman elements so that he can express himself through us. Second, we need the creation of instruments or vehicles capable of containing him, of embodying his presence, of protecting him, vehicles that must have a strong constitution and yet be elastic, ductile, sublime. What kind of vehicles are those? Yesterday, we were precisely talking about the higher existential bodies of the being. Many people believe they already possess such bodies. When I speak of many people, I refer to the pseudo-esotericists and pseudo-occultists. Unfortunately, very few are born with an astral body. If we carefully examine people, we see that they only have the planetary body. That body is governed by 48 laws. What I am saying is proven by the 48 chromosomes found in the germ cell. As is known, the male element provides 24 chromosomes to form that cell, and biologists are not unaware that the female element contributes another 24 chromosomes. Together, they give us 48, which is the number needed for a germ cell. Thus, our physical body is governed by 48 laws. It is a marvelous instrument. Unfortunately, humanity only possesses this instrument. The vital seat of this vehicle is the vital body, the linga sharira of the theosophists, the biothermo-electromagnetic condensation, in which lies the very root of our existence. Beyond these bodies, the only thing that exists is the ego, and that is humanity. The three-brained biped, the intellectual animal, only possesses the planetary body, with the vital seat, and inside, deep within, is the ego, the self, the I, the myself. Such an ego, such a self, is composed of various inhuman elements. Unfortunately, the essence is trapped, embedded among these elements, and it is obvious that it operates according to its own conditioning. We find ourselves, then, in a disastrous state, and yet we are called to cover with our presences the divine male-female, the one that emanated from the absolute abstract space. But how do we do this? How do we proceed? How do we act? How do we work so that one day our sacred Elohim can be covered by our presence? In what way? First of all, we must begin by eliminating the inhuman elements from our nature. And such elements, I repeat, and to make it clear, I clarify, are personified by the various figures that constitute the I, the self, the ego, anger, greed, lust, envy, pride, sloth, gluttony, etc. The defects are so numerous that even if we had 1,000 mouths to speak, we wouldn't finish listing them all in detail. It is very necessary, urgent, and unavoidable to be able to eliminate these defects. Each one of them is an inhuman element, and within each of them is trapped, bottled, embedded the essence, which is the most worthy, the most decent thing we possess. Above all, it is urgent to understand that it is indispensable to become aware of our own errors. In relation to people, in the struggle for daily bread, in relation to our friends, the defects we carry hidden surface, and if we are alert and vigilant like a lookout during wartime, then we discover them. A discovered defect must be fully understood, in all departments of the mind. Each defect is multifaceted and has many roots. Once we have understood our errors through the technique of meditation, once we have analyzed them, we will then proceed to eliminate them. For example, we might understand the defect of anger and yet continue with it. We might understand the defect of envy and yet carry it within. It is also necessary, I repeat, to eliminate, and this is only possible by using sexual electric force. Thus, during Sahaja Madhuna, we can invoke Devi Kundalini, the fiery serpent of our magical powers, and beg her to eliminate, to eradicate from us the discovered defect. She will proceed, using the spear of Minerva to cast them out. Let us remember that wonderful symbol, in which Jesus, the great Kabir, appears in the Temple of Jerusalem, driving out the merchants with a whip. In the same way, we must proceed, to drive out with the whip of willpower the merchants of the temple, anger, greed, envy, pride, etc., etc., etc. Devi Kundalini will take care of it. She will wield the spear of Minerva, and with such extraordinary Fahatic force, she will eliminate the inhuman elements that we carry within. Thus, dear brothers, consciousness will gradually emancipate, free itself, and as it frees itself, it will awaken. When all the inhuman elements have been undone, then it will shine brightly, and we will be able to see, hear, touch, and grasp the great realities of the inner worlds. I repeat, we need to drive the merchants out of the temple, and that is a matter of thelema, willpower. Moving forward, the preparation work is extraordinary because we truly need to work immensely to one day be able to cover with our presence the divine male-female, the inner Elohim, who one day emanated from the uncreated light, from the absolute abstract space. Speaking more deeply, for the preparation of the temple, we will say that it is necessary to fabricate an astral body. Eliminating the ego is one part, creating the higher existential bodies of being is another part, and sacrificing for humanity is our duty. With these three factors of the revolution of consciousness, we will achieve the intimate self-realization of being. With these three factors of the revolution of consciousness, we will be able to crystallize within ourselves the inner Elohim, the Father-Mother, the particular, individual Jehovah, the Iod-Hev. The creation of the higher existential bodies of being also requires great patience. We need to transmute the sacred semen into energy. In ancient times, when humanity had not yet developed the abominable Kundartigwador organ, no one extracted the sacred semen from their body, but when the intellectual animal was projected the abominable Kundartigwador organ, they then delighted in eliminating the sacred semen. If we transmute that venerable matter into energy, we will be able to create the higher existential bodies of being, but first, we must understand the various alchemical processes. It has been said that for the great work, only one substance is needed. What will that substance be? We respond, the mercury of secret philosophy. And where is that mercury? Well, it is the metallic soul of the semen. Clearly, by not wasting the sexual liquor, it transmutes into energy, and that energy is the mercury of secret philosophy, that is, the metallic soul of the semen is the mercury of secret philosophy, and that metallic soul is represented by Lucifer. When mentioning this figure, we should not be scandalized, that is Lucifer. But let us not think of an anthropomorphic archangel. Lucifer is very individual, each of us has our own particular, individual Lucifer. Lucifer is one of the aspects of our inner being and indeed the most important one. It is, so to speak, the double of our inner logoi, the duplicate of the third logos within us, the shadow of Shiva, the arch-hierophant and the archmagus. When those existential bodies have been formed, we incarnate the human soul, but it is not enough to create, with the Mercury, the higher existential bodies of being. We must know that Mercury is called to carry the gold of the cosmic Christ within itself. San Christopher carrying the child, or the sheep carrying its fleece, is an allegory of this truth that we are saying. Each one of us must, first and foremost, prepare our Mercury. Once prepared, we must not forget that within it the golden child of sexual alchemy must develop. Thus, the sexual hydrogen Si12, which Gurdjieff speaks of, is nothing other than the same Mercury. When it is said that the gold develops within Mercury, it is true. But, what kind of gold is formed? I repeat, Christic gold, because Christ is the gold. Within those bodies of Mercury, gold must be formed, the gold of Christ. That is to say, the logos must take form within us, and that is a laborious, arduous, difficult task. It is not enough to create the higher existential bodies of being, one must go further. It is necessary to perfect them so that they can later be covered with the different parts of the being. I repeat, so that those present and those listening to me may understand, Mercury is the fundamental material of the great work and, as I said, it has three aspects, and I repeat and clarify this: the first aspect, the chaos, properly of the wise, which is the liquid, semi-liquid, semi-solid secretion of the sexual glands. And this happens not only in men but also in women, because even if it is true that during an orgasm, a man expends his sperm, women also have their sperm, and when they pass through orgasm, they miserably lose it. That doctors don't want to call female sexual secretion sperm is another matter, but alchemists do call it sperm because it is sperm, and I am speaking in terms of rigorous alchemy, not in chemical or medical terms, and that must be clarified in this talk. That it has three aspects is true, and if I am repeating it, it is so it is understood. The first aspect I already mentioned is the sperm itself. The second aspect results from transmutation. It is, let's say, the tetradimensional part of the sperm, the subtle or etheric part, the soul, let's say, of that sperm, the metallic soul. This is Mercury in its second aspect. But the third aspect comes from the second. It is the energy already ascending through the cords of Ida and Pingala to the brain. Alchemists say that Mercury must be fertilized by sulfur, and it is important that you understand this. It is clear that when the solar and lunar atoms of Mercury make contact at the triveni, near the coccyx, by induction a third force awakens, which is the sulfur, the fire that ascends victoriously through the Sushumna canal, that is, through the spinal medullary canal, up to the brain, and in its ascent, it opens the chakras, the marvelous discs or centers of the vital body. Then it is said that Mercury has been fertilized by sulfur. It is clear that this Mercury fertilized by sulfur takes on new wonderful aspects, giving rise to a first creation of a transcendental order. I refer to the astral body, which is nothing more than Mercury fertilized by sulfur. The result, the astral body is formed, and let everyone know. Gurdjieff did not explain it well, but I explain it. With the creation of the astral body, we will be able to move with it consciously and positively through infinite space. One knows that one has an astral body when one can use it, just as one knows one has feet because one can walk, or hands because one can use them. Likewise, one knows one has an astral body when one can travel with it. Having created the astral body is not everything. We will have acquired immortality, yes, in the world of the 24 laws, that is, in the astral world. Because a person who has not acquired or created the astral body is not immortal, at the time of death, their physical body turns to dust, and what continues in that astral world are the various elements that form the self, the ego, the self, subhuman, inhuman, infrahuman, bestial elements. That these elements later return is true. People, unfortunately, do not know how they are born, nor how they die. Once the astral is created, I repeat, we must create an individual a mental vehicle. With what will it be created? Well, with the same Mercury, and it is with Mercury that the mental will be created, Mercury in a higher octave than that of the astral. Much later, I repeat, with the same Mercury in a third octave, the body of conscious will be created. Thus, you see how with Mercury we come to form the higher existential bodies of being. Now, within that Mercury, gold must appear. Not merely material gold, but Christic gold, spiritual gold. But to make myself more understandable, I will say, later, we must turn it into gold, that is, bring that Mercury to the point of turning it into gold. The astral body must turn into gold, then the mental, and then the causal. This is what is meant when it is said that gold must form within Mercury. Of course, once these bodies are made of pure gold, they can be devoured by the serpent. This is what we want to clarify when we say that the bodies must be perfected and then covered with the different parts of the being. And he entered into the service of the devil. But it happened that much later, he saw that the devil trembled before a cross. The man asked the devil, "Why do you tremble? Why are you afraid?" The devil replied, "Because I fear Christ." "Ah! So, Christ is stronger than you?" "Yes, he is stronger." "Well, then I will serve Christ. As he walked along those paths, he met a monk. "Where are you going?" asked the monk. Saint Christopher replied, "I am looking for Christ because I have been told he is more powerful." The monk said to him, "Look, if you want to serve Christ, do you see that river?" "Yes," he replied. "Then, help the people cross to the other side. Do something for the poor people. There are no boats or anything here, and with your strength, you can help people cross." And so, Saint Christopher went to the river and spent some time helping people cross from one shore to the other. But one day, a child came. Saint Christopher lifted the child and tried to carry him to the other shore, but the child was terribly heavy. Impatient, Saint Christopher said, "But child, don't make yourself so heavy." The child then replied, "I am heavier than the whole world. Didn't you say you wanted to serve Christ? I am Jesus, the Christ." Of course, Saint Christopher was astonished. He carried the child to the other side, placed him on a stone, and a monk with a lamp took the child in his hands. Saint Christopher carrying the child is a symbol of Mercury, within which pure gold must be formed, the gold of Christ. The sheep carrying its fleece is another symbol of the same thing. Saint Christopher represents, precisely, Mercury. That angel from the Apocalypse with one foot on the earth and another on the waters, holding a little book in his hands, raising his right hand to heaven and swearing, and surrounded by a rainbow, is none other than Mercury itself, the Book of Wisdom. It has 7 seals. Whoever is capable of breaking the 7 seals of the Book of Apocalypse will become a god, terribly divine. The rainbow around the angel swearing by heaven and earth is none other than the colors of the great work. That Mercury is first black, representing the death of the inhuman elements, it is white when we have the right to wear the white linen robe, it is yellow when we have the right to put on that robe to officiate in the temple, and finally red, when the purple of kings is given to us. That purple is only given to us after the sacred serpent has devoured the vehicles it has to devour. The same process of the rainbow colors that appear on the angel is repeated in each body, in the astral, in the mental, in the causal, etc., etc., etc. But I repeat, I emphasize again, the important thing is Mercury. An ancient painting appears in which you see, in the ocean, a wonderful fairy, she is among the waves, and from her 2 breasts flows milk that falls into the water, and she is crowned. There you have the 3 aspects of Mercury. First, the chaotic water, simply the sperm. Second, the milk of the virgin, that is, the metallic soul of Mercury. And third, the crown on her chest, which suggests the 3rd aspect of Mercury, the one that already rises through the channels of Ida and Pingala to be fertilized by the fire, the same Mercury that later takes the form of the higher existential bodies of the being. Let's now look at another painting from the Middle Ages. A great fountain appears, in it, a virgin squeezes her breasts, Christ, who is bleeding from his side, which also falls into the same fountain, the fountain fills, overflows, and the product spills into another fountain. Then, a multitude of souls from purgatory come out and receive it for their purification. There you have the 3 aspects of Mercury. There are 3 aspects. Mercury has 3 aspects, but I want you to reflect on them and understand them. For the work to be accomplished, we must give opportunities to nature. Nature helps nature. If the work were done during the day, it would not be correct. We are going to create gold, we are going to create the higher existential bodies of the being. How to do it? Let us imitate nature. If we expose a hen's eggs to sunlight, they are lost, the chicks don't hatch, and if one does, it lasts a short time, then dies. Those eggs must be in darkness to be fertilized. Reproduction always happens in darkness due to the disposition of the creative organs. The creature is formed in the darkness of the womb, the maternal womb. Everything is gestated in darkness, the sun is the number 1 enemy of every seed. Thus, the work with Mercury must be done at night, not during the day, I repeat, at night. The bodies must take shape little by little, they are the very crystallization of mercury. But they are called, I repeat, to perfect themselves. They are perfect when they turn into pure gold, and they turn into pure gold when all inhuman elements have been annihilated, destroyed, reduced to ashes. Understand what I have come to explain tonight, how to bring forth the sacred Elohim, how to cover it with our presence. The one who emanated one day from the unconditioned and eternal space must come into the world. Each of us must become an Elohim of the great work, and the great work consists precisely of self-realization, working with the mercury of secret philosophy. Have you understood this, my dear brothers? We have torn down all the veils of alchemy. This knowledge was given, but veiled. Now we need to tear down all the veils so that humanity may know it. I am speaking to you based on experience because I have my mind in Isis, otherwise, I wouldn't be able to explain it to you. I am not speaking to you with vain, insubstantial chatter of ambiguous conversation. Nor am I verbalizing memory or throwing out new hypotheses. I am simply saying, revealing what I have lived. I repeat, I have my mind in Isis, and that is why I can give you these explanations. Work with mercury, for that is what is important. That is how we will all succeed in covering with our presence the great Father-Mother who once emanated from the absolute abstract space. Thus ends my talk for tonight. If anyone has something to ask, they may do so. Student, in a common and ordinary relationship, in sexual union, there is orgasm, but in men, there is ejaculation, whereas in women there is no ejaculation, that is, in men, there is a discharge, but in women, there is no ejaculation. In other words, women are not fornicators. That is my humble understanding. Would you be kind enough to clarify this for me a little, please, Master? Master, well, your understanding, dear brother, is of. In that sense, but clearly, it is false, because orgasm exists in both men and women. Student. Master, the man loses his sperm, what he ejaculates.